Okay, good to go.
Good evening and welcome to the Stratford-upon-Avon Town Council Community Services Committee meeting, and a welcome to everyone who's watching on the live stream. Do we have any apologies of absence, please?
Yeah, we have apologies from Chris Wall.
Thank you. Item 2, do we have any declarations of interest?
We do not.
Item 3, to receive written requests for dispensation for disclosable pecuniary interest. I don't believe there are any, and therefore we don't need to grant any requests for dispensation. Item 5, public participation. I don't believe we have any either. No. Item 6, to approve the draft open minutes of the Community Services Committee meeting held on the 7th of January 2021, which are already circulated. Does anyone have any issues with the minutes, or are we okay to approve them? Are we running the polls, Lisa, or not, or are we just going to do it by green?
Yeah, I'm just going to try and set that up. Okay. I'm just having a bit of internet trouble. Bear with me a second. Should be working now, hopefully. Yeah, I believe that's unanimous.
Thank you very much. Item 7, to adopt the draft notes of subgroup meetings reported to the Community Services Committee. 7.1, the Asset Register Review Group meeting held on the 11th of March 2021. 7.2, Cemetery Task and Finish Group meeting held on the 20th of January 2021. 7.3, Environmental Strategy Panel meetings held on the 27th of January, 25th of February and 17th of March. And 7.4, the website and social media and newsletter panel meetings held on the 9th of February and the 9th of March 2021, respectively. Does anyone have any issues with those? If not, can we vote to approve them, please?
Thank you, that's unanimous.
Thank you very much, everyone. Item 8, budget review, March 2021. I'm not too sure. Do we not have Phil with us tonight, Lisa?
We don't know. So okay. If you have any questions, then I'm happy to pass them on, but I believe it's mainly for note.
Okay. If anyone does have any questions, then can we pass them on to Lisa and we'll forward them on to Phil, who will respond accordingly. Thank you very much. Can we move on to item 9 then, and the town clerk's open report? 9.1, to review the Community Services Committee's terms of reference, Appendix C. Has everyone looked at the document supplied for review, and does anyone have any issues with it, or can we approve the adopted appendix as requested?
Relaunch the poll. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. 9.2, to consider the proposal of paying for a hosting plan on Our Place, Our Planet. Cole, would you like to lead on this one, please?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, well, the website and social media panel are looking to create an area on the website for green initiatives. So public can all go to look at, various green projects and green initiatives on the town council website. So we had a look at different councils' websites to see whether we had any, get inspiration and so forth. And Exmouth Town Council is a particularly good one. It's actually used a company called Our Place, Our Planet. And in effect, what it becomes is a resource for people, the public, to take steps towards tackling climate emergency. In the light of the fact that we passed a climate emergency motion, we thought it might be a good idea for us to maybe do something similar. It is really like a central portal to signpost people to local businesses and so forth. In addition to that, we can obviously add our own things as well and our own initiatives too. There is a cost involved. It's not a big cost. It's £50 a year, and that includes the web hosting. That's the administrative and maintenance fee. Adding any new steps. When I say new steps, that's any new climate steps, ideas, and checking for any dead links. Now, we also can add a number of links to it too. There's a £45 charge for 40 links, and the links work whereby if somebody is looking, for example, for something like, I don't know, active travel, then there could be a link to maybe local retailers or local bike shops. So how it looks is it's split into various sections. It has energy, waste, food, travel, and nature. Under these different subheadings, you can drill down and find more detail. So that, in principle, how it works. There's an appendices with various documents to show how it actually appears. So what it in effect does, it makes it easy for residents to find services they actually require. So what I'm here for is really looking for your agreement for us to take this further forward, because there's a possibility of this cost of £50 a year plus £45 for 40 links. I contacted the company today to ascertain any additional links, because I realised there could be a lot more than 45 links, and how that works. Because in principle, if we were to pay £45 for 40 links, and we had, say, 200 companies that wanted to have their links on our website, we could potentially charge them a small amount for advertising on our website. So that's the reason why I'm here. So I just really wanted to know if that was something that you think would be a good idea to further. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cole. Councillor Cleave, and then Councillor Foychek, and then Councillor Voss, please.
Thank you, Chair. I know we've spoken about this in the committee, and obviously we agree with what we've done, but the £45, is it for 45 links edition? Is that an additional one-off? And then it's just the 50, or whatever we choose to take. If they offer us like 200 links, it'll be a one-off payment. Like, that's not annual as well, is it?
Not to my knowledge, Jill. No, I believe I've asked for clarification. Obviously, there's a lot of work to be done if we decide to go down this route anyway. So my understanding, it's £45 for the links, and the £50 is for the administrative. Yeah, so it's a one-off fee. And should we need more than 40 links, we might need more than that. Is there going to be an additional £45, or does it slide in scale? So that's a question I'm still waiting to be answered, really.
Thank you.
Councillor Foychek, or with your hand up initially by mistake.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think it sounds like a really good scheme, and it sounds like it's something I'd be quite happy to support. It was just a query, really. If this was adopted within the town council, do we know what impact that would have on officer time, or would that be something that is done from an outside company? So how does that work?
Can I answer? Yeah, I believe a lot of administration and the maintenance will be done by the company. So Our Place, Our Planet. There will be quite clearly involvement from officers, namely Lisa. So at this stage, it's really investigation. And because there's a cost implication involved, I really needed to get the agreement with you to see whether in fact I could take it any further forward, because it's pointless me having conversations if you're not in agreement with it. So my understanding, however, is the fact that there will be minimal, once set up, administration that we need to carry out ourselves.
Thank you, Councillor Warren Hells. Does that answer your question, Councillor Wojcik? Or would you like to come back?
Great. Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councillor Voss, please.
So that is a lovely initiative, fully supported, but I've got 2 or 3 questions here. One is, if a local company organisation wants to be on this checklist, who provides the overview or establishes the criteria for them to meet so that it preserves the integrity of the list? 2 is it's sort of partial. If they, X company promoting transport or whatever it is, change their business model, improve or do not, who would that be? Would you be able to alter the entry, reflect any changes? Can they update it? How often throughout the year could they update it? Because this is going to be a movable feast. And finally, and importantly, because I think it's lovely, because we all aspire to do better, and there are particular areas we would be interested in. And there's often difficult finding an easy access to companies, organisations such as this. So how would it be promoted widely within the town so that it was a meaningful document and not just, which is what it is, a very good idea, so that as many people as possible could touch it and make use of it? Because surely the point is, the more people that even touch it a little, the more benefit we all have overall in terms of climate. So I'm sorry, I should probably have coordinated those questions, if not earlier, but certainly in a more ordered manner. But you can see where I'm coming from there.
I'll try and answer.
Councillor Voss.
Sorry.
Well, I mean, I can't answer those questions directly. I think I need to go away and look at answering them and sitting down with the website group and working out how we can potentially take these things further. Yes, I don't know in answer to your question. I think I need to ask the company. I say my proposal at this stage was really to see whether I should further conversations with the company, really. So, but I do appreciate exactly what you said. But I think I need to go away from here, sit down with the group, take it further. So really, I'm asking just whether you're all in agreement with me taking this any further forward, really.
Yeah,
Thank
no,
you.
I'm happy with that, and I would be in agreement. I think it's very worthwhile pursuing,
Cool.
and certainly for 95 quid as a, it could lead to something very worthwhile.
Thank you, Councillor Voss. Councillor Howe, please.
Yeah, I think I would like to support this this proposal. I guess the alternative from our side is hosting these links ourselves on our own website, and obviously that's going to take up a lot of Lisa's time. This site is very well designed, and also there is just a benefit in coming together with other, in this instance, another town council in Exmouth. There's just a good opportunity to come together and to share resources, share best practice. And there are advantages in sort of consolidating this information into sort of a one-stop shop. And so I think that taking that into account, and the fact that £95 for initial year's fees is very competitive, I think it's good value for money for the benefit that we're going to get. And I think it's a good, as we're sort of the second group jumping onto this opportunity, I think we're sort of getting in at the right time as well. So I'm very happy to support this.
Thank you, Councillor Howe. Councillor Rolfe, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just 2 points. The first one, I think Richard asked about how we promote this and advertise this, and secondly, how parochial are we going to be? In other words, if a business wants to be one of the links and it happens to be based in Ulster or Ettington or wherever, how do we marshal that? So what I'm trying to say is it something we should promote going wider to the district and getting the district to invest? I'm not sure. I mean, it's lovely, the idea of it being for the town council, but we have to be particularly aware that we represent the town. We don't represent Ettington and Ulster and whatever, Great Orme. So how do we police it if a company comes through and say, well, we deal with everything in Stratford, but we're based in Ulster? How do we police that?
Mm-hmm. I think that's a really good question, Kate. I think that the rules and the everything we need to set out before we actually start doing it. So I think we need to say we agree the fact that we will not go outside the town boundaries, but it might be, or we need to make these rules clear before we actually really set the ball rolling with this company. So I don't know, in answer to your question. I think we need to discuss that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rolfe. Thank you, Councillor Warren-Howells. Councillor Cleave and then Lisa, please.
Thank you. Yeah, just one further question. I absolutely agree that it should be for the benefit of the town. So it should be town-based, but is it going to be, are we setting green criteria basically for these businesses as well, that they have to be green? So something like the refill shop or the refill box, whatever, they're a green company because they're promoting things. So are we looking at that too? Because I think that's important, that it's not just any business, it's one that actually has a green agenda as well.
I think that's a very valid point. I think that we would be promoting green companies. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Councillor Cleave and Warren-Howells. Lisa, please.
Yeah, I was also going to touch on what many others had said, actually. So, like Councillor Warren-Howells says, we probably need to put together an extensive, rules that possibly possibly a collaboration between the website panel and the climate change panel, and sort of who we would consider featuring, what, in our specification for that. So if we decide to go forward with this, we probably have to do a lot of work before we actually even set it live.
Absolutely.
Does anyone have any further questions? Do we have a proposal? Do we think we have enough information to actually take this further forward, or do we need further clarification on anything? Councillor Cleave.
I propose that we accept this, that we do take it forward, that we agree with the initial cost. Obviously, Councillor Warren-Howells testifying that it's a one-off cost, but if it's the £95 essentially for the first year, I propose we accept that and we move it forward and set up maybe a task and finish group panel to get this moving forward as well.
Do I have a seconder for Councillor Cleave's proposal? Thank you, Councillor Coles. And can we have a vote on that then, please?
Yeah, that's unanimously in favour.
Thank you, everyone. Item 9.2 on the Town Clerk's open report, to consider the proposal, 9.3, to consider the T3 Foundation proposal, which we originally discussed at a previous meeting. At the original meeting, there was a concern, obviously, over potential fundraising issues for this, and we decided to take it away and look at if we had any interest from any of the care homes within Stratford, which we now have. I've obtained the latest costs for the equipment, which I think is around the £270, if I remember rightly. And I'm bringing it back to see whether whether we are keen to proceed and potentially install this into the requested care home at Scholars Mews. Does anyone have any questions? Councillor Rolfe?
Yeah, if Scholars Mews are interested, why aren't they going to pay for it? I mean, why should we pay for it? Because
I think they potentially could. I mean, I bought this originally because I thought it may be of interest to town council to potentially be the funder of a particular set of equipment for a care home, but they are very keen on it. They have got the costs, so I would be quite prepared to go back to Scholars Muse and say, look, I can assist, or well, I could personally assist them with the training and potential coaching that they would require through the initial period of time. But I'm quite sure that they could afford to pay for this themselves.
I mean, I suspect they have more money than we have.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Fine. Thank you, Councillor Rolfe. Councillor Cleave.
Yeah, I have to admit I am a little bit in agreement with Councillor Rolfe. It's a great initiative, absolutely great to see these come into care homes, but I do feel that if we do it for one, that we could potentially be opening the floodgates to do it for all, and we can't pick one over the other. So I think it's something that maybe they should look at getting themselves, but it would be great. We could support them, as you said, you'd be willing to coach them, and that's fantastic, and it's a great way forward. But I'd just be concerned about the cost to the future costs to the council should more care homes want this within the town.
That's fine. Does anyone else have any questions? I mean, I could actually probably put them directly involved with Table Tennis England with this. They would probably support them on funding if obviously that we're in unison that we feel this isn't worthwhile going forward from a town council point of view. So I think, shall we have a Councillor Rolfe?
Yeah, I'm look, Chair, you've put in so much hard work with table tennis that and you know, you're a town council. I would not want this initiative taken away from the town council at all. So I feel that we should take ownership of this as a town council because of the work you put in, and not give that ownership away. And so when you say you could get in touch with the Table Tennis Foundation, I don't want it to become them coming in sort of dealing with things separately.
It would be very similar to how we operate the Ping project.
Okay.
That we would ask them to support the funding as they do with the Ping project.
Okay, thank you.
If everyone's in agreement with, I think, Councillor Cleave.
Just wondering, do we have another? There's the Orbit sheltered housing, isn't there, within Old Town? I don't know if I'm right, not a private one, but yeah, that one. What about someone like that doesn't have the same sort of financing that Scholars Muse would have? Have we looked at that?
Well, the only thing I approached every one of them, but the only one that was interested was this. I mean, majority of, I think there were only two that actually responded out of all the ones that I contacted, and out of the two, the only one then that followed through with any potential interest was this particular one. You know, I understand all of the comments and agree with them, but I think if we can find a route to get it there from, you know, via the methods that we operate with the Ping projects, then I think it's still worthwhile pursuing, but obviously funding it through Table Tennis England and Sports England instead of Town Council. Councillor Voss, please.
So just so I'm on the right page here, this is aimed specifically, this particular project at care homes, and specifically designed for those who have perhaps less mobility and therefore are seated. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. So if we feel that, just for the sake of example, following what Kate has said about a private care home or even Orbit that might have substantial funds available, could, in time, whether this works or not with Scholars Muse or Orbit or whoever, be extended to other organisations who do not have the same level of funding are within the town, but are dedicated to supporting people who need care, and particularly those with mobility issues. I'm not aware of organisations, but I'm sure others around the table are more aware and would be of benefit. So particularly those with disability, where funds might be short, who maybe use Foundation House, I don't know, or one of the other centres. Would it be easy to take this project to those where the town council could take ownership in the way that Kate has said, but not feel that an organisation which has large funds is not paying for something which they could readily afford anyway? I don't know if those organisations are there, but it seems a tremendous initiative, and one that in principle we'd support, directed to the right organisation. But I don't know if those organisations exist and where they are. It's, remiss of me, I recognise that.
Thank you, Councillor Voss. Councillor Howe, please.
Thank you, Chair. I really support this, the idea of this. I don't think I would support the town council funding the specific initiative, as it doesn't. I don't think we're the right organisation to provide the funding for this just at this time. But I think if I would be very happy to support, donation drive to secure this equipment under the Ping branding or Ping banner, and sort of the idea being of people, the public that have received the opportunity to use the Ping tables out in the community, sort of giving back to those who aren't able to use those types of tables, I think is quite an attractive proposition. I think you'd quite easily secure the funding through a public donation drive under that kind of banner. So I would support that, or something similar to that. And then, obviously continuing to use the town council's insurance and the existing infrastructure we've set up for Ping. I think that would work very, very well. I was just wondering what the chair's views on that sort of idea.
Well, that was, if you remember, Councillor Howe, the original idea when we first bought this. Brought this to the committee was this predominantly is funded exactly how you've just stipulated throughout the country, that table tennis groups that have utilised Ping and other projects operate predominantly through crowdfunding projects to produce the funds. However, I don't know whether you remember or not, there was a point in the first presentation where we weren't sure whether that would be allowed through town council. Now, I could, that is the prepared, the chosen route for this type of project. So I would be in favour of really taking it back to where this project started, and that exactly what you've suggested is what happens, is that we attend to fundraise through the Ping project to support this project from the people who've actually utilised Ping. Does that
I would suggest we investigate that. I mean, I don't, from my point of view, speaking personally to you, Chair, I think, obviously you've got involvement with the table tennis club, so you've got like an alternative route that you could take this down.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think my comments the last time this arose was saying that you could probably get it done faster through the table tennis club.
I think you're absolutely right, to be quite honest. Yeah. Yeah.
As Councillor Rolfe says, I don't think we want to miss this opportunity to be a part of this. But as we say, we're going to struggle to get the funding, from these means. I think we should probably, as a next step, investigate whether we can do the fundraising for this. But I think the Ping branding and the reminding people of the table tennis tables in the community is an important step.
I mean, the only reason I decided to bring it to town council in the first place is I thought it would be almost, and it was sold initially to me as almost an extension of things that moved on from the actual Ping project, that moved into other areas, exactly as you'd suggested, that couldn't support that particular program. And I thought it would be a natural progression for us to support it, but I understand everyone's reservations and comments with this, and I think I'll take it back and look at the feasibility of funding it through some of the other organisations that we've already discussed, if everyone's in agreement with that. Right, can we just have a vote on that? I take it back to look at alternative methods of funding then, please.
Yeah, that's everyone in favour.
Thank you very much, everyone. 9.4, item 9.4, to review the policy of display in the town hall, referencing Appendix I, and this is in particular reference to the mayor who would like to donate a piece of artwork that has been produced by one of the Stratford Youth Market entrants from last year. Does anyone have any questions that they would like, or clarification on any items? Councillor Rolfe.
I don't have any objection to this at all. In fact, when I was mayor, I was given the piece of artwork. I think some of you will remember the drawing. I think this one, which was given, a larger version of that was given to the town hall. I don't know whether it's been put on display. I don't in fact know where it is, so I really ought to ask, but no, I don't have any objection to it at all. I think it's really very, very nice. I personally don't understand what the problem is with showing it.
Thank you, Councillor Rolfe. Councillor Cleave.
Thank you. Yes, I was going to suggest the one as well, if the Councillor Rolfe had, because that was a nice one. Have we seen a copy of it yet? Have I just missed it? The one that Mr. Mayor's got, I would like to see it, and yeah, it's definitely, I'd definitely like to see that put up. The question is, where would it go? Is it something for the Mayor's Parlour? Is it something to go in the main area? Potentially we could be inundated, so is it something that we should, if there is one, have per year and then swap it over if we haven't got the space? I know there's a lot of space, but you know, we could end up getting lots of prints. So the question is where's it planning to go? Where would it go? But I would like to see it, and I'd like to see the one that Councillor Rolfe had as well as her year of May, because I really like that one.
The chair did send you a copy.
Yeah. I did email everyone a copy of the picture earlier on this afternoon. So you should have it somewhere, Jill, I would have thought. Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. Just to answer Councillor Rolfe's earlier comments about her piece of art, it's in that piece of art is still in the parlour, the Mayor's Parlour, but it's not framed and it's not hanging. It's there, so we could easily get it framed and hang it somewhere. If anybody's not seen it, can anybody see that? It's on my phone. That's the. Can you see that? Mm. But actually, I could go get I could go and get the big picture and show you, but it's. Take me a while. Yeah, sorry. I was hoping there wouldn't be a problem, but what I wasn't sure about is A, where it would be hung and who decides what's appropriate. Because I did think there's a potential that a piece of art might not be deemed to be suitable to go in the town hall. So there needs to be some sort of vetting process, which presumably would be this committee who would decide whether it was acceptable or not, just to make sure that nothing inappropriate is accepted. And the question of where it's hung, well, I mean, part of me says I don't care where it's hung. It's if you think it's a nice piece of art, you'll choose a suitable place. Possibly the Mayor's Parlour might be one, but actually some might be more appropriate elsewhere. I mean, we've got lots of wall space to hang things, so it was really just clarification of what the protocol was for donating anything. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Cleave.
Yeah, I was just going to say thank you, Councillor Coles has just sent me one. You left me off the list.
Oh, did I? I'm sorry.
So I thought, but thank you. It does look really good. So thank you very much.
Councillor Rolfe, please.
Yeah, I think if it's a gift, I mean, my one was a gift to the mayor for the town hall, and I think it's rather nice if it went into the Mayor's Parlour, if there was room. And I think it would be nice if the current mayor's, if Tony's picture was in the Mayor's Parlour. Now, I appreciate that if subsequent mayors for the next God knows how many years are given pictures, not all of them will be given pictures or donated picture or donate pictures, but there could be a kind of room space issue. And I think when we get to that, I think we make a decision, but I think, I just think it's rather nice if it was in the Mayor's Parlour.
Thank you, Councillor Rolfe. Councillor Howe, please.
Yeah, fully support this and any other pictures under the sort of discretion of potentially this committee or the mayor. Although thinking it probably is a matter more for civic, but maybe that's something to discuss at a later date. I think another space that is currently occupied by a mighty fine drawing of a bridge which was never built on the way to the toilets is possibly another good space as well, because as lovely as the picture of the bridge that was never built is, it's also quite depressing that it was not built, whereas instead we could have a nice picture of the town as it currently is. So I think that would be my kind of suggestion of where to put. Maybe 1 year after, in the year after the mayor's time, that's where things come from the Mayor's Parlour for a year, so they have a bit of longevity. So they're not just in the Mayor's Parlour as well.
Thank you, Councillor Howe. Councillor Wojciech, please.
Yeah, once again, sort of support this. I think it's great. I think it's probably for the mayor to decide in the mayoral year where it would go, perhaps, and then space provided and where else any of these pictures can go, perhaps for officers to sort of make decisions, unless it's a particular piece of art that's maybe more controversial. But I think officers can probably make quite sensible decisions about this kind of thing.
Thank you, Councillor Wojciech. Lisa?
I was just going to ask, in sort of reference to the actual policy document, is there anything you'd like to add or remove from it? Is there something about sort of, like Councillor Howell said, under the discretion of the mayor or a certain committee, gifts can be allowed and displayed in the town hall? Is there any particular wording you'd like to put in there for clarity?
Does anybody have any additions that they will? Councillor Wojciech? Or is that your hand from previous?
Sorry, it's a legacy hand.
Ah, right, okay. Thank you. Thank you, Jason. Councillor Cleave?
Yeah, it does say under the gift policy, accepted gifts will be displayed for up to 1 year within 2 years. Does that mean the artwork as well? And if it does mean the artwork as a gift policy, is that something we want to adapt or reword to say up to the mayor's discretion?
I was going, sorry, if I may, Chair, I was going to suggest that perhaps somewhere we put in up to the mayor's discretion. I mean, the mayor is not going to put up an inappropriate picture of any kind. Well, Bill, come on. So I think it should be at the discretion of the mayor.
Thank you both. Councillor Coles.
Well, you could just change it to accepted gifts will be displayed for at least 1 year within 2 years at the mayor's discretion, and then that gives you room to display them to longer, and also to put the rude ones in the little used corridors somewhere where they won't cause offence.
Would we like to put that? Would you like to propose that then, Councillor Coles?
Yes, I propose that we accept. Oh, bother. No, I am muted. Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes, yeah.
Up and down. Sorry, lost me flow now. Right, I said we accept these, the policy, but change the wording of display to accepted gifts will be displayed for at least 1 year within 2 years at the mayor's discretion.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Cleave, thank you. Mr. Mayor, would you like to make a comment before we vote?
Yeah, I was just going to say that you obviously need to change the document to refer, because we're no longer the General Purposes Committee, so it needs to.
Yeah.
But it was clarification of the decision initially would be made by this committee as to what would be accepted and where it would be hung possibly. Is that what we're saying, or is it going to be the mayor's discretion where it's hung?
Mayor's.
The mayor's.
The mayor will decide. Yeah. Okay. That's it. Yeah. The incumbent mayor. Yes.
Yeah. Can we vote on that then, please?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item 9.5, to review the cemetery rules and regulations following disruptive behaviour in the cemetery, Appendix J. Does anyone have any comments? Councillor Howe.
I'm slightly confused as to what changes to the rules and regulations that we can establish, because if these instances of antisocial behaviour are happening when the cemetery is closed, then the people are well, they'd be breaking the law anyway, and it's a matter for the police to deal with. So I don't know whether anyone can shed any light on what's being asked here.
Councillor Cleave.
Did Lisa want to come back
on
that first?
Lisa.
Yeah, I was going to say sort of, obviously it's completely up to you what rules and regulations we put in place. But it's a point to note, sort of say if you wanted to say no alcohol is permitted in the cemetery whatsoever, you have to remember that also impacts things that we may want to do in the future. For example, we opened the Tranquility Garden a couple of years ago, where we had a drinks reception for the opening. So if we were to say no alcohol is permitted in the cemetery, that would also mean that we would have to go by those rules too. So it's just something to consider. But it was just put on the agenda really, just to see if there was anything particular you may want to change at this time.
Councillor Cleave. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. Yeah, so obviously one of the issues was the fact that they were playing radios and music, and 6.60 does say the playing of radios, music and any musical instruments in the grounds of the cemetery shall not be allowed without the permission of the town clerk. So obviously that is a breach of one of the rules. However, just bearing in mind what Lisa just said about alcohol, we could do something similar for alcohol. So the consumption of alcohol will not be allowed without the permission of the town clerk. So that could be something we could add to it. Then on offences and penalties, 70.70 but it says by provision of Article 18 of local authorities cemetery order, no person shall willfully create any disturbance. And then point 71 says any person who contravenes these above enactments shall be liable to a fine not exceeding £100. So we can make sure those are updated, but I have a very similar point to what Councillor Howe said, is those are already there. So how will we, the question is how do we enforce them?
Yeah.
Is it just a matter of the police?
Thank you, Councillor Cleave. Councillor Rolfe.
I don't think there should be alcoholic drinking under any circumstances in the cemetery. I mean, the opening of the Tranquility Garden, which I attended, was a one-off, and it's probably not going to happen again for a very, very long time. I don't think there should be any alcohol at the cemetery at all, in my opinion. In which case, Jill, I think you said, unless permission is given by the town clerk. I don't think there should be any alcohol in the cemetery. I can't understand why it would happen. Why would you would need alcohol at the cemetery?
Thank you, Councillor Rolfe. Councillor Cleave.
Yeah, well, I agree with Councillor Rolfe that there shouldn't be, but having that almost get out clause, should there be anything again, I mean, the town clerk's not going to just give permission willy-nilly. So you almost want to have that, as Lisa said, we could have that at some point. We just don't know. We can't plan for future events. So putting something in with that clause at least gives us, should we ever have some form of celebration. We're talking about putting up a memorial plaque for those who've lost their lives during COVID. There may be some launch of that. I agree that alcohol shouldn't be drunk, but maybe we should just have a get out clause. Either way, I'm happy either way. I was just thinking that would make sense.
Thank you, Councillor Cleave. Mr. Mayor, please.
Just to carry on, I could probably envisage a burial party wishing to play a piece of music during the interment and raising a toast to somebody being buried. So I don't think I'd want to put a complete blanket ban on music and alcohol, but that's got to be by special request of the burial party to the town clerk in advance. So we just need to make that clear. That, I think, it would be my suggestion. But I'm interested in the £100, and presumably that's never been enforced, and whether that's who's is that us? We can fine somebody £100, because I can't believe that Tony and the cemetery would be looking to prosecute somebody. It's just not going to happen. So it's also and if the police were involved and they found somebody and that person was found to be in breach, would the police fine them £100? I'm not quite sure of the process involved there. That just needs clarification in my mind.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Anyone else have any comments? I think that's a very valid point. I think obviously it is a clear instruction, but how is it policed, and who actually administers it? Councillor Cleave, you still have your hand up.
Yeah, no, I've put it up again.
Oh, right.
It did say up to £100. It said not. Obviously, it's not exactly £100, but maybe this is something that can go to the cemetery task and finish group to look at, to change, to see if there's, and then bring it back. No, so maybe not. Is this purely for our group to decide? Because we need to then figure out how it's going to be enforced, as Councillor Taylor said.
Thank you, Councillor Cleave. Councillor Rolfe, please, and then Councillor Howe.
Yes, perhaps somebody could have a word with Tony and ask him what powers he has, what does he do if he encounters this, and who does he call? I'm not sure. I mean, he can't impose a fine. I'm sure he can't impose a fine. It would have to be the police, and perhaps he can answer that question. Perhaps somebody should ask him.
Thank you, Councillor Rolfe. Lisa, would you like to just
Yeah,
respond to that?
I'll seek clarification on that, on how that's administered.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. Councillor Howe.
Just go back on Councillor Clee's point. It's the task and finish group for the cemeteries doesn't exist at the moment because it was formed just for the purposes of reviewing the burial fees. So it's no longer. So we could create a new one if we needed to. But my view, I would like to propose that we add the suggestion for permission to no alcohol unless permission is granted by the town clerk. I think that gives flexibility for situations we might not be able to foresee in this meeting. And I don't know whether some of the members have any recommendations of how we can get the police more involved in this area, but I think we just need to make sure that all staff members and members of the public know that if there is a disturbance in the cemetery, that their first port of call is absolutely the police.
Thank you, Councillor Howe. So do we have a seconder for Councillor Howe's proposal then? Councillor Cleeve, thank you. And can we have a vote on that then, please?
That's everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Item 9.6, the consider community catalyst funding request, reference Appendix K, and to consider methods of preserving community halls in Stratford-upon-Avon. Councillor Wojciech, would you like to give a lead on this for us, please, initially?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So the proposal is it's a proposal sort of driven by the Stratford District Council, and it's to include all bit of agreed funding as well, and it's really to get some more sort of the town council involved with a relatively small amount of money to what's being actually spent. And it's really so it gives the town council some buy-in to this particular proposal. I'm sure everybody's read the proposal, but I mean the sort of the main thrust of it is coming out of COVID, is that that perhaps could be a deficit of capacity within these particular communities that are many people are disenfranchised. There are difficulties with income and capacity to sort of go forward in supporting these community centres. And part of the sort of taking it forward is supporting increased revenue generation within the centres to aid their sustainability as well. So really, it's asking the town council to become a partner and to become a body that can add something to the mix, really, of these two particular community centres that are needing more help going forward, coming out of COVID-19. I know this was discussed at length at the last town council meeting, so happy to take any other questions, really, or queries or opinions. Yeah, I'll just open up the floor, really.
Thank you, Councillor Wojciech. Councillor Voss and then Councillor Rolfe, please.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm probably going to go back over old ground here. And I do entirely agree that these is something which is needed. But when I look at it practically, one of the things we said at the previous town council meeting was that some additional information was required before a considered decision could be reached. And one of the things that I specifically asked for was some form of actual measurement and targeting. So, and I'm going to refer back to this again. It's exactly the same document. It's not changed since the document was written on the 13th of January and presented, and it's talking for substantial sums of money. And it says enabling more successful application to take place for the Orbit Grassroots Fund, for example. It's not quantified. I would genuinely like to see some quantifiable, measurable targets so that we know what this person is expected. This is a substantial salary, grossing £44,000 a year. And I've got a subsequent point to that. But nowhere do I see, and I've employed people on substantial salaries, and I will always make sure that they know exactly what they are expected to achieve. And we're talking here, and I entirely endorse what you were saying, Councillor Fortchick, of a need to support communities and individuals who come through at the end of this terrible pandemic with urgent need where there is little or no provision at present. But there has to be a focus, I think, on this person delivering measurable, quantifiable targets, not just there as a feel good. And I'm sure it's not just there for securing funding for new projects, working with WCAVA. Well, do we know what we're expecting? Would we be satisfied if they secured £20,000 a year on a £44,000 gross salary? Or would we be expecting 40, 50, 60, 80, £100,000? That's my first point, and I haven't seen that detail. And we spoke at the last town council meeting in order to get a more detailed job description reflecting that. That's certainly number one in respect of it. And then the other point was that it's a 3-year project, £132,000. My view would be, and I may be wrong here, that at the end of year one, this person would either have delivered or not have delivered. If they have not delivered, that would implicitly say either they were the wrong person, it's possible, or that the project is not worth pursuing. I would fully expect by the end of year one to see delivery and to be self-funding. So in other words, gross salary of 44,000, I would be looking at a return of literally on that sort of money, anything between 5 and 10 times that. So I'd be looking at a return of £200,000 plus. That sounds very harsh, but those grants are out there. If you go to anything from lottery, Stratford Town Trust, £30,000 previously, to the Lights, to Stratford and Bloom, for the right grant presented in the right way. And there are multiple opportunities for that, and a professional will access those grants. And I think that I would be concerned about a 3-year, and that's a general comment, because it needs to be based on productivity in the first year. And if it's successful, then it will fund itself, this job. So I'm still concerned. The project itself, I can see the benefit and the value and the need for, but I'd like to be assured that the person would be employed on the right terms and conditions and the right expectations. It would be a terrible tragedy at the end of year one for lots of goodwill, but no additional funding, no serious amounts of contribution from Orbit, no serious engagement. I think you've got to do this. That's my view anyway. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Voss. Councillor Fortchick, would you like to respond to Councillor Voss? Or
it sounded more like a statement. So
okay.
At the moment, I will leave it at that.
Okay. Thank you very much. Councillor Rolfe, please.
Well, it won't surprise you to know that I'm going to big up the Rosebud Community Hall, which is run by a community group of people. Now, I totally get, don't get me wrong, I totally get that there are more deprived areas in Bishopton and Clopton than there are in Bridgetown and Tiddington. But it is all relative. And I think nobody is going to know the impact of COVID on anyone for some time. We do have elements of deprived areas in the 2 wards where Rosebud sits. We definitely do. And I would be more inclined to support this if I knew that whoever was doing this job was doing it on behalf of all community-run community centres rather than specific ones. Now, I realise that Orbit won't probably agree to that because they're putting in some money as well on this. But Orbit ought to really, considering that they have properties in my 2 wards south of the river. So I saw what Councillor Coles has proposed, and I'm more inclined to go towards that because I think we have to be fair. I spoke to my committee at the Rosebud Hall and mentioned this, and I must admit their comments were, well, what about us? They're going to struggle hugely. They're going to struggle to go back to pre-COVID times. The Hannah Warner a couple of years ago came to full town council and talked about how the town council can protect some of these community halls. And I think it's really important that we try and protect them because they are part of the fabric of our society. Without community halls, there'd be no community organisations. So I understand and I totally get the statistics that Carver have brought forward, but I think it's slightly skewed, and I'd like to see it open up to a wider area. And I understand it will be pro rata for the wards I represent, but don't dismiss those 2 wards that I represent that Rosebud sits in. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rolfe. Councillor Wojciech, would you like to respond?
Yeah, I don't totally get what Councillor Rolfe is saying, and there are deprived areas. They're not exclusive to any one area, except that obviously there are the very highest levels of social housing are in the as we all know, in the sort of the areas around Clopton Avenue, around the ward that Jill Cleave represents, and Bishopton as well, and the whole reason that the district council is targeting those wards are because of the existing highest levels of deprivation, which then lead to poorer mental health and all the implications that follows, and we're all intelligent enough to understand that. So I think it's probably, it kind of has to be targeted, because if you try and cover a wider area, perhaps you wouldn't be able to achieve those aims. I'm just thinking off the top of my head there, but I do get what Councillor Rolfe says about the Rosebud Centre and areas within her ward, but I think this particular targeted area, I do feel needs, perhaps because I'm representing Clopton, but it is the levels of deprivation have been there for decades, and it becomes history repeating itself as well. It's very hard to get out of that level of deprivation without that little bit of extra support. And if you look at the whole, if you look at the bigger picture, it's a small amount of money that may actually create a much bigger benefits for the local communities. So I think the targeted help is justified.
Thank you, Councillor Wojciech. Can I have Councillor Cleave, then Councillor Howe, and then I'd like to give Councillor Coles opportunity to present the alternative project that's within this item. Councillor Cleave, please.
Thank you for that. I agree with everything that Councillor Wojciech says, because obviously there is high areas of deprivation in those wards. And I can understand the district and all the other organisations targeting. Hathaway ward itself actually doesn't have any community centres, so it does rely on going to Bishopton until the new development goes in. There's potentially a new one going there, but there's nothing at the moment. So as I said, I can understand the district and the other organisations supporting it. I think just from the town council point of view, I think the town should be looking at spreading the resources to support all the organisations, all the community centres. So it is a difficult one, but I just want to say, could I just ask Councillor Wojcik, do you know, obviously the Ken Kenneth Centre especially, and I know you're more familiar with that one, it was very booked up before pandemic. Do you think it'll return to how it was before, or a lot of those some of those organisations are desperate to get back, and obviously some, are they coming back? Do you know yet how bookings might be looking?
Can I answer that, Chair?
Certainly, Councillor Wojcik, yes, yeah.
I think we will lose the Ken Kenneth Centre, and I'm sure the Bishopton Community Centre will lose some business, and it's going to take some time to bring groups back in. I think also we have to take into account of the capacity of volunteers and volunteering. We've lost that connection with each other for over a year now. Effectively, bar a couple of months over the summer, the volunteering aspect has become more fragmented, and some people are going to fall away from that, and many community centres like the Ken Kenneth Centre and Bishopton Community Centre are quite vulnerable to volunteers dropping out. So that's where the extra support is needed as well to actually make them sustainable with new volunteers coming forward, because without those, the community centres won't stay open. I hope that answers your question, Jill.
Thank you. Could I just, Chair?
Certainly, Councillor Cleave, yes, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you for that. One of the other benefits, obviously, having had that presentation, I think just over a year ago from the Rosebud Centre, they were obviously doing a really good job, because they were, if I'm correct, they were giving money back to the community. Is there no way of joining with them and actually emulating their model? Because obviously they did something right. So that might be something to look at as well, but that maybe by joining, as you said, I know volunteer retention is really difficult, and especially this year has had a huge knock on so many volunteers, but maybe actually targeting the areas that we know have been successful, it might be something that we could work together. But we need to listen to Councillor Cole's presentation as well. So, but thank you for, yes, you did answer my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cleave. Councillor Howe.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to ask Councillor Wojcik what the status of the project is at the moment. What other organisations have joined the project, and what funding levels they're providing, and just generally what status we're at now, because I note that the timeline from the proposal is probably somewhat different from what's in the proposal currently.
Thank you, Councillor Howe. Councillor Wojcik.
Thank you, Councillor Howe. Well, all bits of talking about £10,000 going in, and then £17,000 in year one from the district council, and they may be able to bring forward another £17,000 to actually get the project up and running from the sort of second year to actually get it up and running. This in turn will then allow applications to the town trust, because as we know with the town trust, they've changed their sort of the process this year compared to previous years, and then the intention is then to look for funding from the lottery as well. That process of applying, it takes about 6 months. So the intention is still to get somebody in place as soon as possible, with that funding there to be able to get it started. So the £5,000, if it's not agreed by the town council, won't stop the project from going ahead. However, my intention was for the town council to become, a partner in this, so that the town council can bring something to the table. Because I know there's a lot of expertise within the town councillors and the town council, and I'm very grateful that my proposal's being heard. So this is to allow the town council to have some influence through this particular project by putting some money in and putting them at the table as well. So that's kind of where it's at the moment. I hope that answers your question, Councillor Howe.
And in terms of timescales,
timescale is to get somebody in place in the next, almost imminently. So over the next, we want to get somebody in place within the next sort of couple of months.
And just to follow on, has a host organisation been identified yet?
Not yet. That's hopefully happening this month.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Howe and Councillor Wojciech. Councillor Coles.
Thank you. Well, you've all obviously received my ideas. This was sort of generated out of some of the questions that we were talking about when this paper was originally brought to the council. And I have spent quite a bit of time talking to our colleagues on the council. I also spent some time talking to the town trusts, and it just occurred to me that we're not actually per se a grant making body, and that when we do make grants, we do tend to be supporting an organisation that supplies the town as a whole. And so I had a sort of a slight question over whether, if we funded one community centre, there are other community centres who we might then feel obliged. So we're sort of, in making a grant to one community centre, we were either then deciding to say no to all the others, or opening ourselves to making similar grants to any community centres, which then led me on to the thought, well, actually, I don't know all the community centres who may well be facing similar problems. And it occurred to me that actually perhaps the role of the council is to get an idea of that and look to doing this work for the town as a whole, for all the community centres. I've got 3 wards on the top of my head that don't have a centre at all. And I think 2 of them have already been raised. Also, there are some that are a lot more active than others. We do know that we've got, at the moment, a highly successful volunteer organisation that has been in play for the last year and is sort of slightly being left now that the COVID and lockdown is, I sincerely hope, dying away now and won't be needed anymore. So I was just looking at, maybe we should be looking at a strategy for a town-wide thing, so that we can identify where the holes are, what we can do to address those holes, who we can go into partnership with, and start pressing for perhaps a slightly bigger picture for the town as a whole, and to look at, if you have community halls coordinating across the town, you have things which would be highly specific to a ward, but you might have a service that is needed town-wide, but which could be targeted at 1 or 2 of those community centres. And that's just making generally things more efficient, that you can encourage people to go to others. The town trust were interested because they are looking at a way of moving more into the community rather than sitting in the playhouse and whatever it is, coming to them, actually pushing their services out and encouraging engagement with them, and in terms of what they can do and how they can help. So that really is where my paper came from. It was just sort of addressing the issues that were raised by this being brought to the council in the first place.
Thank you, Councillor Coles. Councillor Voss, please.
Just to pick up, so it wasn't supposed to be a statement, but I know I ramble on. So the question is then, what additional information is there from the meeting, our town council meeting in January? And secondly, is there a more detailed job description that have perhaps gone to Orbit and to the district council, expanding on those issues that I'm genuinely concerned about, which would help resolve this? Because I would like to see it, and I think we ought to see it before we put our money there if it's available. And I can't believe that other organisations are putting substantial sums in without having a serious. There's not a job description here, so I would like to see that, and that would help satisfy the concerns I have. I feel so. I mean, I'm not sure if you've got that with you now, or you can just ping it across to us at some point, Jason.
Yeah, I don't have that information to hand right now, Councillor Voss. So I'll need to go back to the district council to ask those questions.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I would appreciate it, because broadly, I like the idea. I think it's good. I like council. I like a lot of ideas. I like Liz's idea, Councillor Cole's idea as well. But money is going out, and I think we need to see what it's specifically. And of course, if we do invest in this and we do support it and we are stakeholders, we're also accountable for those decisions as well. So if you've got it, that would be very helpful for me. I'm not sure about anyone else, but certainly for me.
Thank you, Councillor Voss and Councillor Wojcik. Councillor Rolfe, please.
Yeah, I just want to draw your attention to the report and point 3, which it says 2 key assets within the communities are Bishopton Community Centre and Ken Kennet, which are both run by a limited number of dedicated volunteers very committed to their communities. However, both groups have and are going through significant change, not least in responding to COVID-19, which puts these important community assets at greater risk in the future than before due to reduced revenue streams as community group usage has declined. So I'm just going to mention the Roseburg Community Centre again. It's run by a very committed group of volunteers, and usage has dropped hugely, and we are in danger of losing that community centre as well. So even though it's not in an area of deprivation, what would happen if the Roseburg Community Centre couldn't, I mean, I'm having a meeting on Friday evening, and we know that so far we've had 12% of our users come back at the moment. We could lose the community centre in 6 months on that revenue. So I'm just saying that even though we're not in the deprived area, we could lose that community centre. And so I'm just very, very concerned. And I know there are other community centres. There's one in St Peter's Mission, which is run by the church. There's one in Tiddington, which is run by a group of volunteers. I don't know how they're doing, but I just think we're in danger of I think if we give, I think it was Liz that Councillor Coles that said if we give money to one, what happens if we don't give money to another? What will it be seen like from those organisations? I'm just saying. And don't get me wrong, Councillor Wojcik, I know your areas are deprived and they're really important, and I want to keep both of those community centres without doubt, but I also want to keep the Roseburg Community Centre.
Thank you, Councillor Rolfe. Councillor Cleeve, please.
Thank you. If I may, could I ask Mr. Mayor a question from a town trust point of view? I should have declared an interest, obviously at the beginning, because it's mentioned. Councillor Coles and Mr. Mayor, we're also on the grants committee, or Mr. Mayor's coming back to the grants committee in May after his mayoralship, I believe. Is this something that we obviously need to declare an interest in? We probably shouldn't be voting on this ourselves, because if it comes to the town trust, we're on the grants committee, we'll need to vote on it there. So I wonder whether Mr. Mayor could give us some advice on that from a town trust point of view, through you, Chair.
Mr. Mayor?
Well, I'm totally saying just for the sake of clarity, it's always worth declaring an interest, just so that yeah. But my whole feeling about this is that the town council are not. We don't give grants. Effectively, the grant giving scope was transferred to the town trust. So the town council giving any money to anybody is a debatable point. So from my general view is I think I'd prefer the holistic approach of looking at all community centres as the way forward. But there is absolutely no reason why organisations cannot apply to the town trust, and they will be considered on their individual merits. I do have an issue, which is why I stepped down from the grants committee for the last 12 months, that actually there's a huge conflict of interest, because I see all these coming through and arguably I'd be in favour of them all, and then sit on a grant and say, no, we haven't got enough money and we can't do it. So there is a challenge there, but I just think things need to go through the proper channels. And I think that for grants, the processes that actually it should go to the town trust, and the town council should avoid getting involved in giving grants to organisations.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Cleeve?
Yeah, so I think, can I just confirm that possibly we shouldn't be voting on that now in case it comes to town trust? That's what I want to clarify, and I just wonder whether...
I don't see any reason why we can't agree that it can go through the appropriate channels and be referred to town trust for consideration of an application. That's all. We're not approving that application. We are just agreeing that we follow the correct process.
Right. So I won't be voting. But thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cleeve, and thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Foycheck, please.
Yeah, it's just to clarify that I have a non-pecuniary interest in being the chair of the Clopton Community Action Group, and also just to answer Councillor Cleeve's sort of query as well. It's my understanding if it's a non-pecuniary interest, you are able to vote. That's my understanding from the monitoring officer from previous conversations I've had at the district council.
Thank you, Councillor Foycheck. Councillor Howe?
Yeah, just say I don't see any reason why members of the town trust wouldn't be able to vote on this. Separate organisations, so wouldn't you take the merits of the application in turn for each organisation, and obviously you're potentially scrutinising things with a different set of criteria for each organisation. I do think this is a difficult decision, but I think I'm broadly in support of the proposal as it currently stands. I think this initiative is happening, and I think it's important that we're part of that as a sort of forward-thinking town council with a deep interest in the community, and using these two very, very important community assets, and potentially as being part of that, part of this group and spearheading this initiative. We can use our influence within that to broaden the definition to include other community centres. So I don't think that both, I happily support both proposals and use the kind of incubator proposal that Councillor Coles brought to then influence our decision making within the community catalyst group.
Thank you, Councillor Howe. Councillor Rolfe, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. So if the town trust members on this committee do not vote, are we quorate when we go to the vote? That's if they don't vote.
Thank you, Councillor Rolfe. Lisa, can you just clarify that?
Yeah, I'm just counting you. There's 3 of you that are town trust members, is that right? Just, I think.
Thank you, Lisa. Councillor Cleeve.
Yeah, just to confirm. So when we had a session with the monitoring officer at district council, and I asked a question about planning, if we were to vote on a town trust building regarding a planning issue, and we were told we can't vote on that. So I'd assume it'd be the same thing. So it's the same as if we voted now on that proposal. We probably then would have to declare an interest to town trust, and we couldn't vote on it at town trust if we'd voted to approve it on this side. So I think as long as we're core it, I'd rather not vote on it now and allow me to make a decision when it comes to town trust, because we're more likely to be able to give a better financial reward potentially if it comes to that at town trust than we can here. But both proposals, again, as Councillor Howe said, are really good proposals. But if you'd understand with that I'd rather reserve my vote for town trust grant.
Thank you, Councillor Cleave. Do we have any more questions, comments, or do we have a seconder for Councillor Howe's proposal? Councillor Wojciech.
Yeah, happy to second. Thank you.
Can we vote on that then, please?
Sorry, Chair, could you reiterate what we're voting on, please?
Councillor Howe, could you just reiterate your proposal, please?
Proposing to go ahead with both proposals simultaneously, allowing a initiative within the town council to bring best practice across the community centres together under kind of a single point of contact with knowledge and best practice sharing, and then also committing to the funding of Community Catalyst to be a part of the project board moving forward. And then with the desire, I think we can probably stipulate that we would need some as part of that, and obviously would nominate a member to join that board, similar to what we've done with Fred Winter and the other external organisations that we're working with, to then use the influence of that position to expand that to the other community centres in the town, based on our understanding, based on our learnings from the second project.
Thank you, Councillor Howe. Does that clarify for you, Councillor Rolfe?
In a sense it does. So what you're proposing, Councillor Howe, is that we commit £5,000 to the project. Do we know if we have the money in the budget for this project? I believe there isn't money allocated, so I would prefer that question answered before I vote on this proposal, please.
I believe the notes say that the money was allocated to a reserve was created for this purpose.
That is correct. So I had interpreted the notes.
Thank you.
Okay, I've had 2 yeses, 1 no, and 4 abstentions.
Councillor Cleave.
I clicked abstain just because I'm not voting, but maybe I shouldn't have clicked that then. So apologies if that's messed it up. If I'm not voting at all, maybe that shouldn't have been counted.
Between the yes and the no's, we have more yeses. That helps.
I didn't vote, Lisa. Do I?
Yeah, I think the chair gets the casting vote. So.
Yeah, it wouldn't allow me to vote on that poll.
Okay. Maybe it's because I made you. Might be because you're co-host, perhaps. You can send me a message if you like.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. That's a majority of yes then.
Thank you very much. 9.7, to note the report on the repair of the Riverside wall at Holy Trinity Church.
Councillor Voss has his hand up. I don't know if that's related to
Just
this
to
or
reference
previous.
the last,
Councillor Voss.
sorry, just to reference the last vote. So, Councillor Fortune, could you still see if we could have a copy of that job description in order to clarify exactly what this role, as we've now supported it, I think it's even more important than we see exactly what's involved and are able then to influence in any way, as you rightly say, as stakeholders. So if you could, via Lisa, let us have a copy and share that out, we can see what the detail is for the role. That would be very helpful, I think.
Thank you, Councillor Voss. I'll speak to the relevant officer tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Voss and Councillor Wojciech. 9.7, to note the report on the repair of the Riverside wall at Holy Trinity Church. Does anyone have any comments on that at all? Or are we okay to note? If so, can we vote on that then, please?
Thank you.
Thank you. 9.8, to note and update to the conversations regarding the signage in the Garden of Remembrance and Holy Trinity Churchyard in order to tackle antisocial behaviour. Again, does anyone have any comments, or are we okay to note? Can we vote on that then, please? Councillor Cleeve, sorry.
No, it's fine. I just wanted to say it was just, I'm glad that obviously it looks like the dog sign has worked, and that's reduced the issues there. So I'm just really pleased. Now we just need to get some in other places. Really
Thank you,
pleased.
thank you, Councillor Cleeve. Can we vote? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. And 9.9, to note an update on the American fountain clock, which has obviously had a problem with the automatic winding equipment. Does anybody have any issues or comments, or are we okay to vote on noting? Councillor Rolfe.
Yeah, do we have any costings on how much this will be?
I haven't been provided any by the civic officer, but I can ask the question.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Rolfe. Any further clarification from anyone? Can we just vote to note that information then, please?
Great, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And the date and venue of the next meeting, the next virtual meeting of the Community Services Committee will take place at 6 p.m. on Tuesday, the 6th of July, 2021, or at 6:30 p.m. if a physical meeting is to be held at the Town Hall. I'd like to personally thank you all for your participation tonight, and thank you for everyone watching on the live stream. Thank you all.